Notifications turned on. All the great local content you love with VTRN Sports is now on YouTube. Subscribe to the VTRN Sports YouTube channel at youtube.com/@VTRN Sports Lynchburg.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Takes that will probably not age so well. We are going to be filled with those today here in the Fast Lane. Now, Mike Tomlin stepping down, Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. It happened today after the loss you heard where they were really non-competitive after the first quarter against Houston last week in a game, well, last night, not last week, in a game that you heard last night on the VTRN Sports app. And we'll get to that if we get a moment later today in the Fast Five at 5-ish. If not, we'll get to it tomorrow. I've got thoughts on it. Most people know that I have been a Mike Tomlin fan, but even I understand the need and the nature of the mood for the man who coined the phrase.
Standard is the standard.
And who has not lived up to the Pittsburgh Steelers standard, 0-7 in the playoffs in his last 7 playoff trips with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, don't know if it's all his fault, but I get it. More on that later, though, so we don't have to play the full Take a Detour sound effect. Takes that may not age very well. For Virginia Tech and Virginia basketball, different spots since that New Year's Eve game that the Hokies won in triple overtime down at Castle Coliseum in Blacksburg. First, for Virginia Tech, listening to the game, coming back from covering Stanford at Virginia for VTRN Sports, happened to catch the latter part of that game, including the post-game show where Mike Young probably echoed a sentiment that a number of Virginia Tech fans may have felt themselves.
I need a moment to myself. Knew it was going to be tough. They have a good outfit.
Knew it was going to be tough. I need a moment to myself to gather my thoughts. Because over the course of that second half, it felt like for Virginia Tech, much like the women who entered the weekend, they won 2 in a row, but still coming off those disappointing losses the week before. Overtime, blowing a lead to Miami, the Lady Hokies, and then getting dominated, arguably the best team in ACC women's basketball overall. Felt like they needed something to course correct and just prevent the, oh my goodness, it might crater before it even gets going, ACC play feeling. And to Megan Duffy and the Lady Hokies' credit, they did that. Mike Young, Virginia Tech men's. It wasn't exactly pretty. And it almost felt like for them, it took a while for them to get going. And at some point, I don't know if it's the sense of urgency got larger where you're riding a losing streak, Wake Forest, and then Stanford on that blown 13-point lead in the last second 3 that Stanford hit. But it felt like there was a fire lit, as Mike Young alluded to in the aforementioned Virginia Tech postgame show, as you hear all Hokie games, right here on the VTRN Sports app.
In the early going, we went down 11, and I thought we were on our heels. I thought we were flat, playing hard, and attention to detail is good. But there's got to be a fire about you. There's got to be a level of intensity, and I didn't think we had gotten there. The last 12 minutes after the second media timeout, the last 12 minutes, they felt our team. We were into their rear ends. Speaking of fire, from Mike Young, as he alluded to, Trey probably would like to light a fire to the soundbite we just mentioned because of how often he and TJ and Ty are probably in the same boat. They've heard me use the phrase attention to detail here at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. It is one where I think there's meaning. That's why I use it. But everybody probably rolls their eyes because, myself included, I often have moments where I fail to have attention to detail. Misspelled the name of one of our great clients today to get my usher on. Not intentionally, but was just trying to put a message together. And by the time I press send on the text message, I'm like, oh, that is not a good move. And I actually got it right
in the latter part. But to get my usher on, I managed to make a mistake as well and failed to heed my own words. But lighting a fire is where it felt like for Virginia Tech. It was we've lost, and this is not me as a Hokie fan. This is what I'm picturing myself if I am on the bench for Virginia Tech or on the floor in Castle Coliseum playing to the audience on the VTRN Sports app, your home for great play-by-play, including Virginia Tech football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball. If I'm in that caliber and in that spot, it's, wait a second, we've lost 2 in a row. Now we're going to fight against Cal. We've got to find a way to get it together. And to their credit, they did. Now, it's not the pat on your back. It's all good moral victories. Mike Young kind of alluded to that as well.
We weren't great today. We're not playing great basketball. We're playing good basketball. We're going to be great here soon, and I look forward to that moment.
Great basketball is consistently putting it together over the majority of a game. Are runs a part of college basketball, and are you going to be on the wrong side of them in every game? Very true. It happens. But the ability to slowly weather that, not deviate from your fundamentals, have the right level of intensity, and then bounce back. That's part of basketball. Part of a lot of sports where runs are a part of it. And for Virginia Tech, that's the difference between where they are. They're good. They're good enough to have snapped that losing streak. They're good enough to still be a team that is in legitimate NCAA tournament consideration. And they're a good enough team where they have opportunities along the way to help themselves, but they're not a good enough team where you can take them for granted.
They're all going to be right down to the wire, guys. That's Boeheim. I was texting with him this morning, and he was talking about the strength of the league. And, looking back 6-7 years, and every game is a gut-wrenching experience. And you've got ample opportunities to really help yourself. We needed that win. We needed Wednesday's win, and that one didn't work out. But
yes, they did. They definitely needed the win against Stanford Wednesday, which didn't happen, and it felt like it heightened the level of urgency for Virginia Tech. They need to get a win. It's not going to be easy. SMU on Wednesday night is no gimme, but you need to be competitive in games against good teams on the road. And then you need to hold your own at home. And for Virginia Tech, I would say it would still probably be helpful to snag a win here or there that could boost their resume. This is the ACC. They will have opportunities to do that. They've still got North Carolina on the road in February. They've got Virginia on the road on rivalry week at the end of the regular season in early March. They'll have Duke at home in a couple of weeks. Like, there are opportunities, among others, on the schedule for Virginia Tech. But right now, they are in the category of good, but sometimes playing with their food. And that is a difference, even though they beat Virginia, between the Hokies and between the Who's. Because right now, if you look at Virginia, they're in a much different spot. They're in a spot where they've won 3 in a row. They've all been by double digits. And it's been the defense, oddly enough, that has really keyed this for Virginia. And Ryan Odom alluded to it after the win against Stanford, but it doesn't even feel like they're playing their best defensively compared to what they are capable of.
The urgency, the understanding how we're trying to play defense, just the connectivity. I think communication's a big part of it. The efforts are there. The understanding that, we can get teams deeper into the clock. The press certainly can help with that. And I thought we got a couple of steals, in the first half, which helped us and got us going a little bit. I think finishing with a rebound. I mean, that's one of the keys is like getting the ball, at the end. You can force all the misses you want, but if you can't rebound the basketball, well, you didn't play the defense that you set out to play. And I think our guys, are understanding of the importance of each facet, of a possession.
They're understanding it. They're figuring out, it's looked that way for Virginia. They were in a tight game against Stanford and then just buckled down in the second half. And that was the most impressive part for the way the Virginia Cavaliers won. And they're using defense to win games, very ironically, because one of the things is shot clock violations. It became a staple under Tony Bennett, where the shot clock would wind down and the crowd would get excited. And Virginia, they forced 6 of them. Kyle Smith, though, joked that it should have only been 5 after his Stanford Cardinal, he thought, got screwed out of one of them.
Probably got a little rattled because they really screwed up a call when they put 2.1 on the shot clock when it should have been 21 seconds on the shot clock. Cost us, so I like to say only 5 violations, because I think we would have got a shot off, and I didn't catch it in time, and the refs apologized, but those things happen. But that was that set me for a loop there. But
Virginia is forcing those, and it's their defense, and that's not going to be a calling card for Ryan Odom. I do believe talent-wise, Duke, they're in their own classification. I would put North Carolina there, although, I've got some skepticism on the coaching, abilities of Hubert Davis and acumen. I think he gets a little defensive at times, and a little tense. But, hey, they'll prove me wrong perhaps next Saturday in one of the rare Virginia games you'll be able to hear on the VTR and Sports app. But when Virginia and North Carolina square off at JPJ next Saturday. And for Virginia, this is where they are. Is they're in a spot where it's not perfect in every way, but they're doing a lot of good things so far. I get it. I might be applying a broadcaster jinx for their game tonight against Louisville. But Chance Mallory mentioned that there's some things they're doing that led to those 5 shot clock violations, including the way in which they're playing defense and starting to figure out how to lock down opponents right at the right time, by the way, with ACC play beginning.
Just keeping our chest in front, as Coach says a lot. Try not to gamble, stay solid, because we know if we just get them down the shot clock, that's where we want them to be. So just not turn the ball over on our end and letting them get transition buckets, and then just keeping them in front of us.
I think the other thing that's also worth noting is not just the 5 shot clock violations, but the fact that Virginia, they played very well in the second half, and they've been able to take other elite players out of the game. Abuka Okori, Stanford. You may not know about him. I get it. Stanford is not a school that many people do even now associate with the ACC. But for whatever reason, they're in the ACC because why add West Virginia and Memphis, who may not be athletic fits, never mind that athletics is, or it may not be academic fits, never mind academics are being butchered in this era of college athletics. This is the ACC. It is hashtag so ACC to be doing something like that. Shout out to our West Coast superfan Ben for helping us coin the new hashtag about the ACC. Regardless, make fun of Cal and Stanford all you will. They are in the ACC. And Abuka Okori is a good player. And Virginia held them to 4 of 20 shooting, 14 points. He had to work hard for it. And that was a big part of the reason why Virginia was able to win. And Ryan Odom mentioned, once again, how they were able to defend Okori and understanding conceptually that while pace is something Virginia will emphasize, right now it does not look like it's coming at the quality of good defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough to guard. We talked all week about guarding him with 5 guys and not one, trying to keep him off balance and pick and roll coverages. Certainly, he demands a double team at times. Sometimes getting him inside, we had to test it to see, with our bigs, to see if he could get in there and finish over them some, or kind of how that would play out. And so we were prepared to do both. And we kind of stuck with our main pick and roll coverage.
And Virginia had a really good defensive plan, but it's not just that. This is where you tip your cap to Ryan Odom. And this is where, again, Tony Bennett, legend for Virginia, but where Ryan Odom can excel in a way that Bennett could not is Bennett needed guys in his system over a long period of time. And you're just unlikely to get that in this day and age of college basketball, especially when, and again, this is part of Bennett's character. It doesn't make him a bad person, but you're not fully all in on the whole NIL pay for play embracing players, which means you can retain players over multiple years, which means they can get better from year 1 to year 2. And you might have to pay a premium, even though you can get them to the NBA, because of the style fit for Virginia back in the day. It's different now, but they have a stylistic fit that helps them. But more so, it's the coaching acumen of Ryan Odom and his staff. They have experience routinely bouncing from system to system to system. They are more of an amenable system as opposed to the pack line that Tony Bennett instituted in the mover blocker offense. There's more flexibility. And with that, it's easier to coach players in this day and age. And we're seeing it for Virginia. Will Ryan Odom get to the heights that Tony Bennett got in the legendary status? There's a long way to go to even be in that category. Of being a better fit of where college basketball is right now, we're seeing exactly why that's the case for Virginia And it could fizzle out. I could look like a moron when we're speaking tomorrow in the fast lane after applying, again, the broadcaster jinx tonight at Louisville or at SMU this Saturday. Or maybe really bad when we chat with Jerry Ratcliffe in Monday's edition of Covering the Commonwealth if Virginia happens to drop both of those games and feeling amped up pressure when they host North Carolina next Saturday at JPJ. But as it stands right now, the ability to get this defense in gear, combining with an offense we've seen, that's why you paid the money for not just Ryan Odom, but for a staff and a group of players and for Virginia. Doesn't mean they'll win the national title. Let's not get carried away, although I do think they might be a good value pick. But for Virginia, there are good things out there that you're seeing, and that is encouraging with their coaching staff. Speaking of changes with coaching staffs, we'll get to that in the Fast Five at 5-ish in just a moment. And we'll get more on the Virginia Cavaliers with Virginia basketball analyst and former Wahoo grade Junior Burrough, who, by the way, was honored with that 1994-95 team at JPJ this past Saturday. But before we get to all of that, if you need to coach up how to be a better financial steward in your own situation, one way to do that is by going to InsaneRadioDeals.com. You don't have to pay full price. You can get 2 menu concepts in one from Oliver's on Rivermont and 801 Raw Bar. I was about to say the Yard on 5th Street. We do have the Goose gift certificates as well. TJ, you have eaten at Oliver's, correct? Since the staff changes under new management, right?
Yes.
By the way, what was the service like when you last ate there?
The service was good. I mean, they kept up with me and everything. I've been there twice since they've become a sponsor of ours, and service was good every time. I got refills constantly, and the food came out nice and hot. It was great.
Was the food consistently good the way you expected?
Yes. The smash burgers made my whole world.
So you like the smash burgers?
Mac and cheese on top of the burger every time.
That's your go-to?
Yeah.
Caramelized onions is one. They have the Sidewinder fries.
Yeah.
It's delicious. Meanwhile, if you want other food options like 801 Raw Bar and Oliver's on Rivermont, they are now combined in one location, but you can mix and match off either menu. You're up to, 150 menu items. I forgot. I should know there. But again, to get my usher on them, I forgot, and I have to ask for forgiveness. There's also great experiences like the Caribbean Jerk Pot food truck, wherever they happen to be. That'll be kicking back up in the springtime. The Yard on 5th Street, and more. And why pay full price when you can take a little bit off thanks to InsaneRadioDeals.com. Meanwhile, we mentioned coaching changes. We get to that in...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
The Washington Commanders, a surprising move to many. David Blau promoted internally to be the offensive coordinator. I thought Trey Lyle with Lake Lewis had a real good point today about maybe this being a year too early. Candy Waller backed that up yesterday. If you missed any of that, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, or the morning warm-up, wherever you listen to podcasts, right there. Or the audiograms coming. They're not already up. Please forgive me if they're not yet. Or if they are, and I have not noticed your work, TJ. If not, they'll be up soon at Fast Lane, Ed Lane on the socials. But Candy Waller brought this up as well, that there was a fear and concern in the Washington Commanders that David Blau is a rising coaching candidate and interest starting to heat up with him. And if they did not make the move sooner, he might have gotten out of the building. I get that. I'm a little concerned because of the lack of experience in this being a defensive coach. I think it's reasonable to be very concerned about that. Not to mention there's probably going to be a lot of personnel change, particularly at wide receiver in the pass-catching spots for the Commanders. They need a better tight end. They need some more superstar caliber playmakers at wide receiver. But Blau's familiarity with Jane Daniels and his wanting to be in a continuity-filled environment, I do understand the line of thinking with that. And even though Kingsbury is gone after year 2, there's a lot of similarity to promoting internally. There are more responsibilities for Blau, but this might be a spot where you add a senior offensive analyst or insert whatever made-up title you want to bring someone in to complement David Blau that could also be another voice with veteran leadership and experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was probably a move too early, but I thought Seawall made a great point. They felt like he was going to be gone if they didn't nab him and promote him. And the question is this going to bite them in the face again? We'll have to see.
I think it's very reasonable. I don't know if there was a home run hire candidate for quarterback coach / offensive coordinator, but you're promoting internally. My big thing is I would want to see a different style at quarterback or at offensive play calling and the structure on which you base a game than Cliff Kingsbury, where you're not using the run game or play action pass nearly as often as you have. If David Blau's pitch included deviating from the Cliff Kingsbury approach, that's where I can buy there being a line of confidence.
Yeah, and I think what Washington needs to do is move away from the short passes. It's not working. You've got to get Jaden Daniels in a situation where he's comfortable throwing the deep ball.
More on coaching in just a moment, but there are a couple of other things that are worth noting as well here in the fast lane, including
Number 4.
according to Puck, John Orand, he's a very respected sports media reporter. Sources have mentioned that media companies and private equity players have had, quote, informal talks, end quote, about what it would look like for a, quote, minority stake, end quote, in NASCAR. I always get very nervous, especially if the France family is seeding this to possibly sell off larger. And the reason being, there are a lot of NASCAR properties that take up a large chunk of real estate and land. And private equity is generally in the business of maximizing money. And if they think you could tear down a NASCAR track and build different types of commercial developments, apartment complex, or spec houses that can net them more money than could consistently be netted by having a NASCAR facility, that would be my concern. And oddly enough, I'd be more concerned about what happened with Fontana out on the outskirts of LA being an issue than what could happen in a place like Darlington or Martinsville. Here's going to be some breaking news in the fast lane. Those are not exactly hotbeds for real estate market. So having the NASCAR track there might actually make sense. But in larger developmental areas, Chicagoland comes to mind, Kansas, even with the infrastructure upgrades, also comes to mind, especially with the idea of the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium being built that way, and maybe the Royals as well near Kansas Speedway. That to me is where it goes red light, concern. I might be the only one, but that is my biggest concern when it comes to NASCAR is when you get in bed with private equity, if it's minority, that's one thing. But the larger investment they have, particularly when it becomes a controlling interest, the more they are not concerned about heritage or anything other than ways to make the maximum amount of revenue, feelings be damned. And that is the unfortunate reality, but it is the brutal reality of dealing with them. Meanwhile, injury update from
Number 3.
the Virginia Cavaliers. 2 of them, Jakari White, wrist, still considered day-to-day. He is improving, and there is a chance he will resume practicing with the Virginia Cavaliers over the course of this week. Also, Devin Tillis is deemed to be, quote, fine, end quote, after the swollen knee after he got hit twice against Stanford in the win on Saturday. Again, rinse, wash, and repeat. Virginia winning 3 in a row has bought them time to be cautious with these injuries, particularly with Jakari White, and getting him back closer to full strength. And oddly enough, even if he comes back, let's just say for the North Carolina game next week, there's the chance that that was the type of move that could have been, and you're in a spot where it would be sooner than would have been expected with the wrist injury, but not as fast where you feel like you have to rush him back despite that and minimize potentially his effectiveness, particularly handling and shooting the ball much more than being athletic and dunking it. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
Virginia landed a commitment from Missouri quarterback Bo Prabula. Look, I think for Virginia Tech, they got the right one. I would have taken Grunkenmeyer over Prabula. 1 year of eligibility for Prabula, 3 for Grunkenmeyer. I think they're similar skill sets and abilities. The other thing is Virginia Tech is more in a rebuild mode with the first year of James Franklin, whereas Virginia, they're kind of going back to the well of the transfer portal quarterback with the one and dones. That's a dangerous spot to be because oftentimes you overplay your hand. Even if Chandler Morris somehow got an extra year of eligibility and no word on how that will go, I would monitor the Trinidad Chambliss situation at Ole Miss to see how that unfolds. Granted, that's in a Mississippi court and not in a federal court or a district or a federal court, but I'd still monitor that. But for Virginia, even if Morris gets an extra year of eligibility, Trey has alluded to this often in the morning warm-up, 7 to 8 a.m. with Trey and Ty, but Chandler Morris could easily transfer to Clemson where his dad, Chad, is the offensive coordinator, and there is conveniently a potential opening that could be filled by a transfer quarterback at Clemson. So just keep that in mind, where if you're Virginia, Pavula may not have been your preferred option, but you kind of had to strike. And I just don't think the quarterback market is all that robust this year in terms of transfer quarterback candidates. I think the best ones are largely being retained and stuck around at their particular institution. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
it happened. Mike Tomlin has retired or stepping away from being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll have more on this later in the week. Steve Bisciotti, the owner of the Ravens, had a real funny soundbite on it. I'll give my Cliff Notes version here. It just felt like it was time for Tomlin. The fan base had grown weary of him. 0-7 in the playoffs. And it also kind of felt like they went all in with all the veteran acquisitions this year. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf. DK, don't call me DeCorian, even though that's my legal name, Metcalf. All of those had felt like it had come in. And it just felt like things had aged their way through Pittsburgh. How much of that is also management and ownership and needing to maybe rethink their philosophy of being more of a physical 3 yards in a cloud of dust as compared to a modern offense? I think that's reasonable. And I think Tomlin could easily be in the Tony Dungy, his mentor, and Andy Reid camp of doing well in your second chance. But sometimes a reset is necessary, even for elite coaches like those that we mentioned. And you put the other one, John Harbaugh, in that same category. Meanwhile, when we return the fast lane, plenty on the Who's with Jordan Burrough, plenty on Virginia, on the Liberty Flames as well, if I can get my words out, with Jon Manson from theseaofred.com. All that's still to come here in the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. Ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
At the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, we've been serving Virginians for over a century, and we've stayed locally owned and operated for over 100 years. So when you bank with the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, you've got the peace of mind that our team members have a multi-generational standard of being responsive, professional, and caring. That's how we treat our neighbors and friends. With all the uncertainty in our world, now is the time to come to the Farmers Bank of Appomattox. Your community, your bank, your future.
Plenty of large insurance companies know something. If you're injured in an auto accident, it can feel overwhelming. They've defended themselves in thousands of personal injury cases while you've never been there. Thankfully, I have. Hi, I'm Dustin Rosser with Trost Law. I began my legal career defending insurance companies before joining Trost Law. I know how insurance companies think and how to navigate the complex legal system. So if you're injured and need someone to fight for you, just call me at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
New year can mean new changes in your life. But you know what will never change? The great deals that you get on InsaneRadioDeals.com. And we don't just feed your taste buds, but we feed your adventurous side, your hobbies, your interests, with great rates on Rise Up Climbing Passes, Aquatrek Adventures, and Cross-White Athletics Club. Or if you're a sports nerd like me, we've got gift certificates for a SeaOfRed.com and B&C Sports located at River Ridge Mall. All this and more at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us. Build with experience. Build with quality. Build with Right Choice.
From the blue waters of the Chesapeake Bay to the hills of Tennessee, listen to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle on the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
One of the other things that has stood out about the Virginia Cavaliers in their start to ACC play, bouncing back from the triple overtime loss New Year's Eve at Virginia Tech to win 3 in a row all by double digits, has been the way they played in the second half and, frankly, the maturity that they've shown. They would like to go probably closer to 9-10 deep, but the Jakari White injury and has been a factor in that. Devin Tillis in and out of the lineup against Stanford played a role in that on Saturday, but the maturity. And, Chance Mallory's one example of that. Here's what he had to say Mallory did about how Virginia has just taken a wear them down methodical approach to using defense, ironically, for what is now an offensive identity team and a fast-paced team, but still buckling down and relying on defense.
Playing together as a team, wearing them down is what we try to do. So I feel like we put that pressure on them in the first half, and then as soon as the second half goes, they just keep facing our press and our ball pressure and us keeping our chest in front. I feel like that wears the team down, and I feel like it showed those past couple of games.
It has for Virginia. It's been a big part of how they've been able to win is they've been very malleable and adaptable. We've seen over the course of non-conference play in particular, up and down the ability to score. But in particular, Jakari White going out of the lineup, maybe it's the ACC, the ability to adjust, which I think it makes them very lethal now, but it also is part of the reason why Ryan Odom was a logical hire, the ability to have adaptable styles. My thought was more year over year, but we've even seen it in season, which is another asset for the Hoos. Somebody who was there on Saturday, he was honored. We will get to that in a moment. Junior Burrough, part of that 1994-95 team, also analyst for MASN, Monumental Sports, whatever the term is, friend of ours in the Fast Lane. Junior, first of all, we hope your new year is off to a great start. We hope things are going well and that you and your family are all blessed and healthy and well. Thank you for joining us in the Fast Lane. How impressed were you with what you saw from how Virginia managed to win when you were there Saturday at JPJ?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it all. Happy New Year to you and everybody else. It started with the actual shoot around. I mean, what they're able to do now defensively, and what Coach Odom and his staff are able to put together to just kind of scout other teams. We had an opportunity to go to shoot around, and it was just fantastic of just how detailed oriented they are. So it's not just effort and understanding. It's just more about being meticulous and finding out what the other teams don't do well, trying to force them into those situations. So I thought they did a great job. It took a minute, obviously, because Stanford's a pretty good team, well coached. But that's the part about wearing them down that you were talking about earlier. The word you use was malleable. It's just one of those things where you watch a team play the other day. They go into a double overtime game, they win, and now they have to travel across the mountain to us. And I think we did a really good job of making a freshman look like a freshman, and you were able to come out with the win.
You looked at the Virginia Cavaliers from that perspective. What's more impressive? These players and their level of maturity, especially the way that they've adapted from the run and gun offensive approach to what's been much more defensive oriented, or the fact that Ryan Odom has been able to get these guys on the same page this quickly in the start of ACC play. And I'm saying that not trying to apply the broadcaster jinx tonight against Louisville.
Right. I think it's just more about the fact that he's taken a bunch of guys that have played together and he's brought them together chemistry-wise on both ends of the floor. I don't think it's ever been about wins and losses with him. I know, obviously, we want to win, but just the maturity of the kids and the understanding and how they are quick fixes, like that's the professional part of bringing all these kids in. A lot of them are understanding that the only way we're going to be successful is we do it together. And I really appreciate this staff and what they've been able to do, because that's also something those coaches a lot of them haven't coached together. And so it's a credit to them to pull everybody together this quickly, freshmen, seniors, grad students, whatever your scenario is, it's been great for them. So I hope continued success with that rhythm of it all. And it looks good from so far, so good.
So far, so good. It's in the early going of ACC play. How much more will we know about this Virginia Cavalier team over this next 2-week stretch, which features tonight at Louisville, at SMU this weekend, and then next Saturday at home against Carolina?
Yeah, I like to caution anybody. I mean, I haven't been able to do it game by game. It's the coach in me now. It's a game by game situation. They might look fantastic tonight. They might look terrible the next game, or they could have a run like they had early in the season where they just look really good all over. It's just one of those things that happens because we have all the talent. Coach Odom has done a great job. So, and you just praying that they continue to keep building on the things that they've been building on. Defensively, they've been very good. They're not in a lot of foul trouble. They're doing a very good job of contesting everything and rebounding the basketball. So that's the part you got to be successful about. Those are the things you can carry with you on the road and you can do at home. So I'm just proud to be a part of it.
One injury nugget to address right now in the Fast Lane, and to get my usher on for a moment and make my confession. I did not see the nugget that has come out over the last half hour or so, because I'm trying not to tweet while we're in the middle of the fast lane. But like that, we don't encourage tweeting and driving or texting and driving as well. Keep your hands on the road, not on your phone. Be a responsible driver out there. But Jakari White, off the injury report, he will play tonight for Virginia. Meanwhile, Mekhi Brown is the stud for Louisville. He is once again out. How does that impact the way you perceive tonight's game over in Kentucky for Virginia?
Well, it gives us an additional shooter. You have to scout for him everywhere. I mean, he's done a very good job of taking a lot of shots, and he's made a lot of them. His percentages are really high. He does a good job. He was all in the scouting report. He's not just standing on the sideline being injured. He's all in, engaged from the sideline as somebody injured. So you just hope that your car gets right back into it. I mean, he works after practice and stuff. Like you just like to see those kind of kids be successful. He introduced himself to all of us and got back to work. Like that's just the part I like about him. And he's taking this opportunity to be on this stage. And you don't have very many guys that get a chance to do this. Goes from an unheard of guy to now being in a situation in a Power 5, being on the biggest stage, putting his team in the best situation. I like it a lot.
That's good for Virginia. It's another sign of optimism for the Hoos as they get ready to battle Louisville this evening. Junior Burrough with us here in the Fast Lane. Junior, we'll pivot off of what we've seen from Virginia in the early going of ACC action. The reason you were in Charlottesville this past Saturday was to be honored for the 1994-1995 team. Before getting into specific questions, a blank canvas. What did Saturday mean to you to be back on the 30-year anniversary, other than, I hope I'm not dating you in a bad way, but you probably feel a little bit older than you did when you laced them up a couple decades ago?
Absolutely. Now you're looking down at the floor to make sure you don't trip and fall, right? At 52 years old. It's just an honor to be a part of it. You have to thank University of Virginia for actually honoring us. That was a great time in my life and for everybody around. We had about 75 members of multiple teams together at the Rotunda and on Friday, and then to just be honored and to eat dinner. The Barry Park Hills, the Ralph Sampsons, all those guys being around, the fan support, everybody coming up, thanking you for being a part of it. Just goes back to the family and the memories of being a part of Wahoo Nation. And I'm proud to be a part of it. And it's always been good to me. It's always felt like home. So it was a great feeling, but it's not a feeling that I'm shy of. I thought it was a great opportunity to recognize the rest of my teammates. They don't get as much publicity as I did. And it was just good to see everybody give those guys an opportunity to say thank you for what we were able to do at that point in time, not just that year, but our 4 years of being there.
You have a special bond in particular with Curtis Staples and Corey Alexander, because all three of you guys came to Virginia at different points from Oak Hill. Is that bond stronger because of Oak Hill than maybe even with your other teammates, as you guys all seem to be pretty tight?
Yes. I mean, the Oak Hill part is, it's just hard to kind of explain to people. It's kind of a trauma bond situation. You're kind of out of your comfort zone. You're on a mountain in the middle of nowhere, Mount of Wilson, Virginia. You have a coach who's promising you all these things, but at first you have to earn your keep, so to speak, is what Coach Smith used to always say. And you have the best coaches in the country watching your practices and all these things. And there's just a bit of gratefulness that is hard to understand unless you're a warrior, unless you're up there in that environment trying to get better. And it was just one of those things. And you come out of that ready for college basketball. It wasn't foreign to me to see a whole crowd of people and see a bunch of people in there rooting against me or for me. The things that nervous and butterflies that go on with other people, those things weren't really part of what I was able to do there. I was able to focus in on what I was able to do, have a good time, enjoy the process. And it all started at Oak Hill Academy.
It's amazing the bond that you guys felt from not just Oak Hill, but being together with the Virginia Cavaliers. How feasible is it to have that bond in this day and age with the volume of player movement?
I mean, if you look at some of the real, you look around the country, you see some of the real good teams, the successful teams. The movement isn't as much. Like if you look at Duke and Carolina and Michigan and Michigan State and all these other, they just add a piece here or there. Texas, Houston, not Texas, Houston, Memphis, all of these teams. There are a bunch of teams I watch, and I don't see as much movement overall. They'll grab a piece here, they'll grab a piece there, but everybody's trying to get a core group. I think Coach Odom is trying to get a core group of people, and then you might have to add a piece here and there. The rules are going to change. It seems like they change weekly for college basketball and football. But at the end of the day, I think most of the coaches I talk to and most of the coaches I've been around, they're trying to find a core group of 7 to 8 guys, and you try to grab a big guy, a point guard or something like that. If you have to keep starting over and over again, it's going to fall apart at some point in time, and it's just a matter of time. And I don't think you can really coach the best way you can in that regard.
Last one for you, and we'll tie this back to Virginia Cavaliers. We'll see how this season unfolds for year one of the Ryan Odom era, but structurally, what's your confidence level that Virginia, you're not going to be able to keep everybody, the transfer portal exists, but that they're going to be able to prioritize and have a core group of players year over year that they develop that can help make this a sustained winning program?
Right. Well, you're always recruiting. You have to re-recruit your players. I don't think you can come here, and I don't think any of the guys, we asked the question, you got 15 scholarships. How many of those guys are actually happy about being in part of Wahoo Nation? And that's, if you could answer that question as that coaching staff, if you can keep that number in the 10 or 11, then you can persuade anybody to stay. I mean, it's not just a financial part, but you can be a part of something. I think that's the difference between the University of Virginia and everybody else. Like, you're not just coming here to play basketball. You're not just trying to be a part of it. You can do that. But the best situations for you with an opportunity to play at the next level is to come in and make yourself available to be a part of a family situation. And I think you'll win from that part of it. Winners write history. That's just a part of it. And I know this is his first year. And if they can stay healthy, this is going to be a really good season that nobody thought was going to happen. And you can tell because when you're around them, they get along. They're always around each other. That's something that's genuine. That's not something you can make up. When the coaches aren't around, the kids are still standing around each other. And I call them kids because they are, obviously some of them are older than others. But there's a bond that they're coming up with, and you got to like it. And it's not something you can be superficial about. It's got to be something that happens naturally.
Yes, it is. Somebody who's got some inside access into the Hoos from having played there and now commenting on it on MASN in Washington, D.C., and, of course, at J.R. Burrough on Twitter as well. Junior Burrough with us in the Fast Lane. Junior, always appreciate your time. We thank you for that, and we congratulate you and your teammates on being honored for the 94-95 team this past weekend.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Junior Burrough with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, Liberty basketball, that bond, particularly Cleveland, Porter, and Matheny, it's gotten him now to 5-0 in Conference USA play. Jon Manson from ASiraRed.com will discuss that. Plus, new starting quarterback? ? We'll discuss that as well when we return here in the Fast Lane.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, plus the used car superstore. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles at one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Do you have a sports card and memorabilia collection?
Wow.
Did you inherit one? Not sure what to do with it? BNC Sports has been your local hobby store for over 30 years, and they'll provide their professional assessment and can cash you out. No collection is too big or too small, so don't drop the ball. Stop by the mall or give us a call. BNC Sports, the game starts here.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Our listeners depend on us for traffic, weather, news, and sports. But unless Washington acts, big tech companies could shut us up and shut us down. Big tech takes advantage of outdated federal regulations that could put us out of business. It's wrong. Text radio to 39179 to tell Washington to modernize decades-old restrictions on local radio and TV stations before big tech makes us disappear. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
80 million listeners depend on AM radio to always be on, delivering news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports you can trust. AM radio also delivers vital emergency information when you need it most. Text AM to 39179. Tell Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Before we get into all of the serious stuff here in the Fast Lane, Jon Manson, Liberty Flames reporter, AseaofRed.com, joining us now here in the Fast Lane as we talk Liberty Flames. I thought I had seen it all. And then I had to do a double take Saturday at Po' Boy King this past Saturday for Liberty. Not just the fact that he played for Sam Houston, but the way the name is spelled, P-O'-B-O-I-G-H. It took a moment. That is an A++++ for name creativity. John, what was your reaction when you saw the name this past Saturday for the starting guard or one of the key guards for this past Saturday's game?
That's funny, Ed. I actually had the same reaction when I was doing some game prep back in midweek last week, and I saw that. I was like, this has got to be a joke. So I went back and looked. No, that is his legit name, and kind of similar to Liberty's newest football, one of their newest 23 football portal commits. D-Icy will be roaming the secondary for the Flames this fall.
I love it. D-Icy. I don't know how it's pronounced. You know, if that guy, D-Icy, gets a starting spot for Liberty and becomes a key contributor, again, I may be mocked over there when I get to Bel Air later this week. Go home to Bel Air. Liberty Arena, LA, Bel Air. But the Gucci Mane song, So Icy, clean version, of course, might have to be part of the Liberty Flames rotation and pregame warmups.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think he's expected to start. He was a 2-year starter at Georgia State, so I think you can kind of pencil him in as a starter for the Flames in the secondary. Obviously, they're still adding more pieces, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more. But I think he's one of those guys that you can expect to play a lot of snaps, if not even start.
John, you've already got me excited for the upcoming football season as Jon Manson from AseaofRed.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. We can actually get into more serious, legitimate breakdowns about a lot of these new additions. They added 3 through the portal this past Saturday. They've added others in the last couple of weeks. The write-ups are impeccable at AseaofRed.com, and the links are also available at JC Manson or AseaofRed on Twitter. But the most notable one is Deshaun Purdy, the former quarterback for Wake Forest, who is now committed to Liberty. Dual threat. He's got the ability to beat you with his arm or with his legs, but big. 6'4", 228 from Baltimore, Maryland, and Milford Academy. Pretty good prep school and fairly highly touted as well during his time there. Do you view him as competition? Do you view him as the clear favorite, or do you view him as a slight favorite as we get ready for what will be a delayed spring ball? More on that in a moment.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting and something we'll continue to break down throughout the off season.
as we get into it. But I mean, you've only got 2 returning quarterbacks on this roster, the 2 Ethans, Vasco and Hauk, and 1 incoming true freshman, and now Purdy. So only 4 total quarterbacks on the roster. Wouldn't be shocked if they went out and got a 5th. I wouldn't expect if they did get a 5th that it would be someone that has significant playing experience, maybe somebody more like in the vein of Michael Merdinger that they had a year ago, the transfer from North Carolina, who has obviously since transferred now to Minnesota. But yeah, I think the expectation is that Purdy will, at the minimum, compete for the starting job. And I would think the hope would be that he would be able to win that starting job. You know, Vasco had shoulder surgery just following the conclusion of this past season. He's going to miss upwards of 6 months, so he'll obviously miss all of spring practice. So that gives Purdy a chance to get into the system, get into the offense, get into the playbook, get to know his coaching staff, the offensive system, which could change slightly, obviously, with quarterback coach and co-offensive coordinator Willie Korn moving on. But I think the expectation would be that Purdy could win that job, you know, and I'm sure the Flames would hope he could win it in the spring even before it has to get too much further into it. But he's a guy that, you know, had a really strong true freshman season at Charlotte. You know, it was kind of a backup to begin the season, which you could expect as a true freshman. And then back half of the season kind of took over as a starter, and 50% completion percentage is, you know, that season. And then also last year at Wake Forest after he transferred there and was primarily a backup, made 2 starts when their starter was hurt. So that's one obviously concerning statistic when you look at it. But he's a guy that definitely has some arm talent. He can sling the ball around the field and got a lot of deep passes, pass plays, you know, greater than, you know, 30 plus yards down the field. That's something that Liberty kind of struggled with Vasco this past season. So he opens the game up that way. And you might go back to more of the type of offense Liberty had a couple years ago in 2023 when they were obviously very successful, 13-1 in Fiesta Bowl appearance. You know, when it was, you know, you pounded the ball on the ground. You know, you turn around and hand the ball off to Quentin Cooley and Billy Lucas. And obviously Liberty has gotten 4 commitments at running back through the portal. And then every now and then, you know, kind of take a play action deep shot with Caden Salter or CJ Daniels. That was so successful then. So we'll see if the Flames go with a similar type of offensive approach this coming season. But yeah, I would think Liberty fans should become, you know, well acquainted with Purdy, as I think he would probably be a slight favorite to probably win that job. And we'll have to see how things go in the spring, because obviously you have to earn that on the field. You don't just come in and take over from a returning starter, even though Vasco struggled at times, inconsistent, and is coming off a shoulder surgery as well.
I mean, selfishly, yay for spring practice, of course, being later in the spring game, whenever it's scheduled being later, will mean that we'll have more chances to get more bites at the apple and discussing content and carrying it through spring sports season, as softball and baseball obviously are no doubt high expectation times when we're that way for Liberty athletics. But Jon Manson of CFRide.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. The one nugget on football that's also necessary to bring up is the Jamie Chadwell medical situation that came out last week. Expected to be back by springtime and being ready at that time, but something that was concerning. First of all, blessing in disguise that he's okay, and that's the most important thing, but also the fact that it seemed like being able to get ahead of this early is something that gives him a chance to have a path to full recovery and being able to be the best version of himself as a football coach too.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, most importantly, it's great to hear that everything's going well, and had successful surgery last week, and you start to wonder how much of that affected him on the field and in you know, in his job, right? I mean, you know, being a head football coach is his job, and obviously when he had a serious medical issue, they said that, you know, Liberty, they said it was detected in the summer prior to the season starting. So, you know, how much did that affect him and his ability to coach, and obviously being distracted by that, and his health, and worried about it, and what the prognosis would be, and we don't know how many times he was at the going to doctors or getting second opinions and things like that. So I'm sure it took away from it a little bit, and I'm sure we'll hear from him at some point in time when he's ready to open up about all the details as far as he wants to go. But and I know he won't make any excuses, but you got to wonder how much of that distracted him during the season, and I'm sure something like that it's got to be hard to go through, and affects your entire life, and obviously your job as well too. But certainly glad to hear he's doing well, and hopefully he's able to make a quick recovery, and like it sounds, should be ready to go by spring practice. And that might be another reason why the Flames decided to push back the start of their spring practice about a month.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point as well about the reason for pushing it back. There are a number of things. Transfer portals more settled down. Got an idea of your roster. You got a chance to not worry about how guys perform in the spring. But there's the other reality this year in particular of Jamie Chadwell and his health. Does it also maybe provide some context as well about the fact that, he didn't bring it up last year? I get it. You don't want it to become a storyline or a distraction, but, as he's quietly potentially battling the health circumstances last year, it might also put in the context that there was a lot of stress, it seemed like, on him that people didn't know about, but in hindsight makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so easy for us to, especially, sports fans to get caught up in the on-field performance, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of resources invested into these programs, including Liberty football, and the team and program obviously underperformed. I'm sure Coach Chadwell would say the exact same thing, regardless of his health situation. So, like I said, it's glad to hear he's doing well, and hopefully for Liberty fans, he'll be able to successfully guide the team moving forward and have a successful season. And one thing, got to commend the rest of the coaching staff for them to be able to hold down the fort and successfully navigate the transfer portal, which it seems like Liberty's got quite the haul coming in through the portal. Like I mentioned earlier, 23 total commits as of now. That's changing every day by the hour. 23 total commitments or signings through the portal. And they've done that seemingly without their head coach, Coach Chadwell, with them. They're certainly not every day, and not much here in the past week or so since his surgery. So I got to give your hats off to the rest of the staff as well.
And again, if you want individual breakdowns or even as they flow in groups, seaofred.com is your spot. We will delve deeper. I've mentioned this with all schools. We touched on quarterbacks or players that are locally tied transferring in the fast lane, but otherwise we're going to wait for a lot of it to settle down before we get into more in-depth dives, because the bad thing about this is we have like 6 to 8 months before we get into more meaningful parts of football. To us, game action, of course, not that it's not meaningful for practice. So that's our disclaimer here with Jon Manson from seaofred.com in the fast lane on W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside. Now, John, to Liberty basketball. For all those times where they've gone through slumps in certain big games, boy, did it regress to the mean in the second half against Sam Houston. You'd love to bottle that up, right? 77.3% shooting and 12 foul shots made over the final 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tremendous road trip for Liberty last week. First at Louisiana Tech, and then at Sam Houston, which, coming into this week and into conference play, Sam Houston was either number 1 or number 2 in the net and in KenPom rankings in Conference USA, and Liberty was trailing them and others. New Mexico State's been up there as well too, who Liberty welcomes to Liberty Arena on Thursday evening. But it was quite a business-like approach in both of those games, and they took care of business against Sam Houston, led pretty much throughout in both of the contests, and did it a little bit of a different way. Sam Houston, like teams have become accustomed to doing against this Liberty's team, and I'm sure we'll continue to see it throughout the season, is trying to take the three-point shot away and trying to take specifically Caden Matheny and Brett Decker away, and those two combined for just 2 points in the first half. And Decker was able to get some shots to go in and also got to the foul line some in the second half. But Caden Matheny, I mean, late in the game, I was looking up his career game log to see when's the last time or if ever he had gone and was held scoreless. And only one game in his 6 years of college basketball was he held scoreless, and that was back early in his time at Bowling Green. So he did get a bucket there in the last 4 or 5 minutes and finished with 2 points. But, it was, in spite of, Matheny not being able to score and Decker, which is due, like I was saying, a lot to Sam Houston's credit and how they were defending the Flames. And it was Zach Cleveland, tying his career high with 23 points. And then J.J. Harper had his Liberty career high with 20 points. And those two guys, I mean, if you get 43 out of those two guys that are been hovering around, 9 to 10 points per game, averaging all season, you're likely going to have a good game and for the Flames, and that's what happened. And so credit to them. I mean, just shows another way this team can figure out a way to get a win and doing it on the road and place, Louisiana Tech, for example. Liberty had never won there before prior to this past week, and now the Flames sit alone atop conference standings 5-0, which the first 2 years through Conference USA, through 5 games, Liberty was at 2-3. So obviously a different start, a strong start for the defending champs as they, go into this week first place, at 5-0, the only team undefeated in conference play in the Conference USA so far.
There are a lot of ways you can look at the meaning of Porter, Matheny, and Cleveland. The latest is Zach Cleveland is 5 points away from getting to the 1,000-point mark, which means there's a good chance that he will do it in front of Jon Manson from AseaofRed.com, as well as myself over in, and I had to use that as an excuse to play the soundbite, of course, for this Thursday's game over at Liberty Arena, better known as here in the Fast Lane. What does it mean, though, that particular mark that they've all played together and they could all get to the 1,000-point mark, showcasing not just their point contributions, but the fact that takes a lot of selflessness that you can get that many players and that many players to that type of mark.
Yeah, and also speaks to their longevity, if I can speak here. You don't typically have many players get into 1,000 points with one team anymore because they move around so frequently. But obviously, Zach Cleveland, Colin Porter, spending their entire 4-year career at Liberty, and Caden Matheny's, now been here for 3 seasons after transferring from Bowling Green. I mean, they all have had opportunities or options, I'm sure, to go elsewhere and try to maybe make some more money somewhere else, or even in Matheny's case to step aside from basketball and go into business with his dad back in West Virginia, as he kind of thought about, flirted with following this past season. But they've all decided to come back together and do it again, one last ride, if you will. And so far has had a lot of success, currently riding the 7-game win streak. And I'm sure, these guys don't care about, winning 7 straight now or being 5-0 in conference play now. They just want to win those 3 games in March in Huntsville and get back to the big dance where, hopefully they can have a different outcome than they did last year against Oregon. That's what they were talking about back in preseason in October and in early November when the season was just getting started. And I'm sure we'll circle back to some of those conversations as we get towards March. But, credit to those guys and to Coach McKay and the system and program he's built where guys want to stick around. I mean, we've seen it for several years now, going back to, Kyle Rhodes now on staff and Darius McGee and the likes of those type of players who, certainly could have chased, money in the portal as so many do, but they decided to stick around at Liberty and see this thing through. And Coach McKay has certainly got things rolling and behind that big 3. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, you look at each of these rosters of Conference USA teams that Liberty faces each and every week, and almost all of them have like 1 or 2 returners from the prior season. So when you're able to return guys like a Porter, a Cleveland, and a Matheny, who hopefully here Thursday night will all be over 1,000 points scored in a Liberty uniform, that's hard to overcome. And they've done it at a high level, as witnessed by what they did last season by cutting down the nets in Huntsville and also winning the regular season title. It's not like it was a fluke 3-game tournament run. I mean, and they're backing it up so far this season. So certainly a delight to Liberty fans and a special group. I don't think you see many guys stick around at the mid-major level for their entire career and have the type of success these guys have had so far. So I'm sure they're looking to go out on a high note, and we'll certainly be there following them all along that journey.
Yes, we will. Jon Manson with us here in the Fast Lane. Jon, great to be speaking with you. Thank you for your time today. It's good to catch up with you. And yes, one more time, we will see you Thursday over at for Liberty, even though I may be a little bit late, which might be after the 1,000-point mark has been eclipsed, because the Fast Lane does wrap up at 6. But look forward to seeing you Thursday night nonetheless.
Yeah, it's early tip, 6 o'clock. So it's CBS Sports Network. But if you're in the Lynchburg area, get on out there. Liberty students still on break. So, there should be some tickets available.
Indeed. Jon Manson. Jon, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me on.
It's our pleasure. Jon Manson from AseaRed.com with us here in the Fast Lane. We go for a brief pit stop to ESPN Radio, and then we will have Marquette St. John's in men's basketball this evening coming up bottom of the hour. All of that when we return, though, tomorrow. We'll get more into basketball here in the Fast Lane, 5 to 6 p.m., VTRN Sports app, and 93.3 FM.
Young Harry Douglas and Julio Jones.
What's your damn number one, Freddie?
My number one's the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh.
There's no question that should be the Atlanta Falcons. If I'm John Harbaugh, I'm going there. Screw the Giants. Ooh. Screw the